In 1789, the French Revolution changed Europe, if not the world. An unjust and corrupt ancien regime was overthrown by a people besotted with the ideals of liberté, égalité, fraternité. Groundbreaking, certainly, magnificent, exciting, yes, except for the small detail that these awesome ideals were delivered in a bloodbath. Written in 1912, Les Dieux ont Soif, or The Gods Will Have Blood, is set in 1794 during La Terreur, the Reign of Terror, so called for all the massacres and the public execution. Anatole, France, not his real name, by the way, himself a political activist and a Nobel Prize winner, casts a cynical look at the ideals of the revolution and the visions of justice, liberté, égalité, which here are little more than cold, empty words. The fanaticism they inspire being not that different from religious zealotry and the inflexibility of the Ancien Régime. So we have down and out artist Évariste Gamelin, who's a passionate and very highly opinionated young man, and he's devoted to the ideals of the Révolution, and he worships Marat and l'incorruptible Robespierre, then at the height of their power. Évariste lives in an overcrowded garret with his old and naive mother. He's in love with Élodie Blaise, the daughter of an art dealer, and upstairs from them there lives a ci-devant aristocrat, Maurice Porto-Desilette, who lost everything in the revolution. And in order to survive, he resorts to making, painting and creating these puppets in the guise of the Punch and Judy character. Brotteaux shows a philosophical serenity despite his misfortunes, but he thinks the new regime has been overtaken by the kind of folly of bloodlust. The manipulative Madame de Rochemaure, who is an old mistress of Brotteaux, unlike him, has profited from the revolution, and is always scheming to obtain favours from this and that friend and acquaintance. And it is la citoyenne Rochemaure who, thinking that she can use a friendly contact at the Revolutionary Tribunal, gets Évariste a job as a juré, which is a kind of a cross between a magistrate and a member of the jury, with the power to pass sentence of death on the accused, who in that particular period is always guilty until proved innocent. Little that she imagined that as his psychological as well as active involvement with the revolution increases and progresses, Évariste, who once was an idealistic and quite a nice young man, becomes more and more fanatical, self-deluded, paranoid, and implacable. Spoiler here, he will soon dispatch them all to Madame la Guillotine on a one-way ticket, in the name of La Révolution, of course. Though the period greatly fascinates me, I cannot begin to understand the complexities of La Terreur. None of it can be explained rationally. My head spins with images of atrocities and bloody uprisings, with the war in La Vendée, with the Prussians, with the Austrians, no bread, let alone brioche, the valued currency, the National Convention des Sans-Culottes, des Girondins, des Jacobins, des Montagnards, des Fédéralistes, l'Assemblée nationale, l'Assemblée législative, des tribunaux révolutionnaires, la Comité de Salut Public, all in a whirlwind of butchery and psychopathic violence. The novel plunges us headfirst into Paris's revolutionary streets, among its people, among the dust, the cries, the smell of blood from the wet cobbles, and looming above it all, the dark, bloody shape of La Guillotine, itself a product of the Revolution, as it democratically slices off the heads of both aristocrats and peasants. Of course, once the aristocracy used to die by the sword and the peasants used to have. This is not the heroic peuple of Les Mis. This is an unleashed mob, ravaged by poverty and hunger, vindictive, ready to switch allegiance at the drop of a hat, who will do anything for a few sous. And who could blame them? Makes life in COVID-stricken inner London look like a trip to La Boulangerie on your way to a picnic, with the benefit of what Hilary Mantel calls the blessings of hindsight. We try and analyse the consequences of the French Revolution, but if I go back to those days, I try and imagine what it must have been like for French people, Parisians, French, then in those unsettling years. In one scene halfway through the novel, la citoyenne Rochemont asks old Brotteaux, what is going to happen to us? What indeed, when all it took was for a virtuous citoyen to suspect someone, and they would immediately be tried and condemned to death. To empty overcrowded prisons, groups of people who had absolutely nothing in common with each other were tried at the same time and executed in the space of a few hours. Robespierre thought there was virtue in the terror. This was obviously a brilliant mind, a man of the Enlightenment, who at the beginning of his legal and political career was against the death penalty and wanted to abolish slavery. Would you think there was virtue in making statesman Guillaume de Malesherbes witness his daughter and granddaughter's execution? Or take the case of another revolutionary leader, Jacques Hébert, who on his way to the guillotine, obviously terrified, fainted several times and screamed hysterically. To amuse the crowd, the executioners adjusted the blade so that it stopped inches away from his neck, and they did that 4 times before pulling the lever to release the blade. People must have laughed their heads off, pun intended. No hagiography of the revolution here. Nothing is idealized, not even love. Is this too remote a past? I would like to quote Lenin, who, when was asked in January 1918, soon after the October Revolution, why they had to be so bloody, he chillingly replied, do you imagine we can really succeed without the very cruelest of terror?